warm welcome to my channel, Chandra. I'm really genuinely happy to have you here on my channel today with me.
Thank you. And thank you for having me.
And I would like to tell my viewers that Chandra wears multiple hats and she never rests on her laurels. She is a founder, holistic, mental, emotional wellness practitioner, transformational coach, integrative wellness advocate, global speaker, global thought leader, founder of Mindful Adaptations. Then she has written books as well. That is Two Daughters, A Legacy, The Wholeness Within. The next book is Global Congruence Method, and she's a podcaster. You can find her on Spotify, The Congruence Corner. Furthermore, she's a traveler. She travels to a lot of places with her family, individual trips with her daughter, with her son. So I can't wait to discuss all these things with you, Chandra.
And thank you. Thank you for the lovely introduction. Sounds like you definitely did your homework.
Yeah, a lot of I did a lot of homework. You have like 20 years of experience. You did your BA, MA in psychology. So yeah, I
Mhm.
did a lot of things. I listened to your podcast as well. It was really good.
Oh, thank you. And
And
thank you for having me. I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
definitely the feeling is mutual. So tell me something about your work, Chandra.
So that's always a tough question because I never know where to exactly begin.
Hmm.
Um, in my past experience, my early experience is working with kids with anxiety and diagnosed with depression or suicidality, and working a lot with emotional regulation of kids. And I pretty much really fell in love with that aspect and working with children. And in taking some time off, my children are 14 and 10. So when they were really young, I took some time off of work. And then about 5.5 years ago, right about COVID time, I decided to go back to work. But I wanted to do something a little different in the realm that I was currently working. And so at that time, with COVID, a lot of kids were home, obviously, anxiety was spiking with a lot of kids, just emotional regulation stuff. And a lot of my colleagues and a lot of my past colleagues and friends, they had significant wait list for kids being seen by therapists and getting diagnosed and being able to get into the office in general. So it was then that I started my own practice. And at that time, I just wanted to bridge the gap to help kids be seen, to help them with emotion regulate, and just have someone to talk to before they could actually be seen by somebody else. Um, and it's kind of funny how things snowball because when I started that, it was strictly on Zooms because it was during COVID, schools were shut down. And then as things progressed, I started seeing kids in homes and then started realizing, when I used to work in clinical and more of the hospital setting, I wanted to get away from diagnosing. So, away from diagnosing and labeling kids with anxiety or ADHD and finding that thing within them that you could turn any of their perceived deficits into assets. And so that really was the launch to everything that I'm doing right now. And what I believe in too. It's, these kids that I work with, and, I've worked with probably hundreds over the past 20 years,
Hmm.
is even though they have labeled anxiety or they're seen as, you see the behaviors, you see them shy away or, not be able to focus in school, and you see all those behaviors that happen, but what's really happening underneath is they might just have, a lot of emotions that they don't know how to express and how to handle. And so it's really helping kids just kind of know who they are and finding that wholeness within, which is, the title of my last book, and how to help them work through some of those things to, turn those things into assets.
Wow.
And I always say superpowers, right? We all have like these little superpowers within us.
Hmm.
And how can you, hone those in to be completely yourself and unapologetically you, pretty much.
Definitely. I guess you mentioned these things in your podcast as well when I was listening to you. Everything is inside of us, like all of us. We have this power inside us that we need to find out, I guess. And the answers are inside all of us, I guess. In the congruence corner, I guess. I was listening to the podcast of yours. And
Mhm.
that reminds me of a question, Chandra. Like nowadays, we are bombarded with things like anxiety through social media, through newspapers, all sort of things. And when it comes to kids, like their life exists more in social media rather than in real life. They always try to compare themselves. Nowadays, I see often like a lot of people are like children, specifically like teenagers around the age of 12 to 16. They are really into K-pops and Korean things. They try to imitate like them. They want to be
Mhm.
like them. So, what's your take on it?
I think that's an absolutely good point. And that's actually one of the chapters of my book on social media is, you know, you can't take that away, right? And I think social media can be good and it can be, come to a disadvantage as well. It depends how it's used. And so it's still teaching kids to be able to navigate social media, but not to rely so much on the external gratification. And you know what you said, like, everything that we have is within us. And I so believe that from working with kids and just myself, my personal professional life is not relying on the external gratifications to help somebody feel good. And so it's, yes, use social media for good, for research, for, you know, advocating a good cause for whatever they're advocating, but not relying on the external gratification of all the likes and putting up the facade that everything is perfect when actually, like, let's be real, you know, everyone has struggles, right? And so what you see on social media is also the filtered version of someone's life. And so helping kids realize that, like, what you see is not always the reality, and how can you internally fill your own voids up rather than relying externally on those things. And that really has to come with, the last book of the wholeness within is how do you fill yourself up so you don't need all the external things, because all those external things in time, can turn into other external things in an adult too, right? Shopping, drugs, alcohol, whatever it is. And so trying to limit those things and, you know, really teach someone how to basically raise your own vibrations within. And that's a whole nother topic on the emotional vibrations and just being one with yourself.
Intriguing. And Chandra, one more thing, like apart from social media, I see like not only in terms of children, but a lot of people in general, they are addicted to junk food. For them, like they don't like to eat food that is cooked at home. They are like they want to eat all kind of be it pizzas, burgers, or any sort of junk food. What would you like to say on this topic, like the importance of food? I would say that.
That's an area that I have not touched as much professionally,
Okay.
that I would like to touch, because I think, I have a lot of opinions about the food and, even traveling to other parts of the world, I feel like the United States is a little different in that aspect, a little bit as far as, the inadequacy of diet or just not knowing how to prepare foods. And I think that comes back to generational too. I don't know. Um, as far as, knowing how to prepare healthy food and, even if you don't have a whole lot of means or, financial security, one area I would like to touch in the future is how can you turn, a simple chicken and vegetables into 3 meals, and how can you eat that and feed your family and actually it be sustainable?
Mhm.
Um, because diet definitely plays a big part in moods, anxiety, emotion regulation, especially with dyes and preservatives and sugar intake. Um, and so that's a whole nother aspect I feel like that needs to be also addressed. So it's not always just one thing, but it's also what you're putting into your body.
With a like immense experience of 20 years, Chandra, what sort of advice would you like to give to the people who are watching this in general in terms of be it mental health or improving their mental health, whatever things that that, but we don't.
One of the biggest takeaways that I have learned through my personal life and professional life is everyone has a genetic blueprint of what makes them who they are, right? And
Mhm.
whether they have, genetic predispositions to have more anxiety because of environment or their nature or whether in their family. One of the key things I would love to take away from this is everyone to realize that whatever is within them, whatever they have that might be seen as perceived deficits, it's knowing who they are. And so it's not forcing them to fit in a certain mold of what is expected or what they feel like they should be or should not be, but it's embracing their own being and work with that. It's how do you make, like I said earlier, like how do you make any of those perceived deficits turn them into assets? And how can they be your best advantage? And with that, it's also finding, and I do a lot of work with teenagers and the tween group, even adults, on finding their passion. And, once they realize who they are at their core and how to turn those things into assets, then they can hone in what their passions are, what their purpose is, what they can do that really feeds their spirit, feeds their soul, whatever you want to call it, and living their truest life and authentic life, right? And authentic living and the authenticity piece and being true to themselves is also like one of the highest vibrations you can give off emotionally. And so when someone is living that and feeling it, they're living in a more higher vibrational state. So naturally, anxiety goes down, moods increase, and it's a ripple effect.
Wow.
Um, so that's a very long answer, but I feel like it's a causation. It's like one thing leads into the next.
Got it. Makes sense. And also, I guess you have been to a lot of places around the world. So, what's the importance of traveling in your life?
What's the importance?
Of traveling. Yeah.
I love traveling. I think I I like to read and I like to learn through books, but I feel like you can live and learn so much more by actually going somewhere and embracing that culture. And we're trying to do the same thing with our children who are 14 and 10. And we just took a trip to London and Paris, and for them to see like the true history of England and France and World War II, we went to Normandy. And for them to actually see that and see it in real life, I think was so much more impactful. But also just, how to navigate a bus system, how to, get from one place to the next, I think is huge. And to learn about different cultures. And one of the interests of, personally is globally, like, I work here in the United States, the eastern part of the United States, and I work with some clients on the West Coast in the US. But it's also interesting to me to see what is going on in other parts of the world too, right? As far as emotional regulation and anxiety and mood and diet as well. And you're in India, correct? Is that where you are? Yes, and that is one area that I have not explored yet, but I'm also very interested in, what things look like there. And getting into that global market of all of this, it's like how can we globally help each other and bring all of our resources together,
Okay.
which you're doing through podcasting too, which is great.
Mm. And when it comes to books, Chandra, I read that you have been an avid reader since your childhood. You have always been fascinated by books, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And
Uh,
I read it. So, like, I watched one of the videos on YouTube where they talk about, the significance of book. Like, it has the capacity to increase some sort of chemicals in your brain when you read books that can only be activated by reading books, not by
oh,
watching media, yeah, or scrolling or any sort of things. So they were talking about not only in terms of increasing or expanding your vocabulary, but in terms of your mental health also. Reading books can be a good thing. So
okay.
yeah,
Interesting. I believe that.
yeah.
It's good
So,
stuff.
what kind of books are you into, and what sort of books do you like to read?
So more recently, I really like the old books. What's his name? Jabal Cabran, like books that were written in like 1900s. Because as I'm finding now, a lot of what they said like the 1900s is very similar to kind of what's going on now, as far as, you know, finding who you are, and it's very philosophical based. So that's kind of where I'm leaning right now is like more the philosophical based books. It's obviously psychology oriented ones, which is kind of what my books are geared toward as well, kind of that same genre. And I have to be honest, I don't read a whole lot of fantasy books, or I feel like I did like years ago, but that's just not my thing. If I'm gonna watch something, to take me away at night, it's going to be like a Netflix show that I'm going to get into. But I like to
coming
read
to
the
that point.
educational books. Yeah.
I was coming to that point, but prior to that, I have one more question. Chandra, if
Mhm.
an entire life of yours was a book, what would be its name, and what's the current chapter of your life?
Oh, that's a good question. What would be the theme? Um, it would probably have to do something with traveling and um, yeah, I'm a really big, I want to say nerd, but really into quantum physics and just the study
Oh,
of like how that all works.
mhm.
So I would, hmm, it would probably be something about traveling to different realms and traveling through the speed of light to be able to get to places more efficiently. So in my mind, my book would probably be more of like a fantasy-based book, even though I don't read those books, if that makes sense.
Okay, and what sort of shows do you like to watch to wind down, yourself?
Um, Romantic comedies. So anything that I can kind of veg out and there's a good storyline, good characters. I also like detective based
Mhm.
shows that, you have to like figure things out. But those are probably the top two.
Okay. Wow, nice. And if I ask you a question in terms of mental health, when it comes to men specifically, Chandra, do you think that when they cry, is it a form of strength or weakness?
Say that one more time. I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
When men cry, we men have the habit of keeping everything bottled up. So when we cry, do you think in terms of society, do you think it's a form of strength or weakness?
So societally, I think it has become seen as more of a sign of weakness
Hmm.
with men, right? I feel like there is a different stereotype between men and women in that regard. Absolutely. And it's interesting because even having a 10-year-old son, he has said to me before, like, I shouldn't cry about this. And of course, I'm like, yeah, like you should. And wherever that message comes from, I'm not sure where he got that, but I think those messages come in just from society, from school, from other people, things that they might see on TV. Um, so that is actually one of the things that I work with males on is being okay with that, right? Just because you cry and you feel these emotions, feel it. And that is kind of like the meditative work that I do with some of the kids is, when you have these emotions come up, feel it, embrace it, don't fight it because the more you fight it, it's going to suppress. And then that turns more into anxiety and anger and emotional outburst. And when they start to realize that it's okay that they cry, they're like, it's really hard for them. It's like, oh, like this isn't comfortable, right? And that's actually going to be my next book. So I wrote the last one to daughters. The next one's going to be to sons on that very aspect of how to help boys with that, right? And still be a strong, still be strong and have the self-confidence that any man or woman can have, but also being okay to show your emotional side and express.
And Chandra, nowadays, this is a topic which often comes up that how to balance work life, how to balance work life balance. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, do you think that thing exists?
That's a tough one because having a business, having kids, it's never a perfect balance, right? And
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes you give more to one thing and more to the other thing. And um, I had a business coach that said to me once a while ago, not using the word busy, right? When you're talking to your kids or talking to anyone, it's like, I'm so busy. And so it's, even when, having to balance work life and family life, it's acknowledging that your schedule is full and you have that, but still allowing yourself to make time. And it's more about that quality than quantity. And I think that's where the balance comes in. It's, when you have those moments where you can take a break and have time for yourself to recharge. And I think that's part of the awareness too, is knowing when to recharge your own energy levels and what to give to your family and giving yourself that quality time, even if it's like 5 minutes. 5 minutes of quality time is better than 20 minutes of quantity that's not really full of quality, if that makes sense.
Got it. And what sort of things, Chandra, you do? Because as you deal with a lot of people all the time, what are some of the things that you like to do to keep your, mental health in check? Like to have a little bit of me time or something that you can do
Mhm.
just for yourself, nothing else.
So it's a good question because I balance between being extroverted and introverted. And
Okay.
so when I start, and my business is very extroverted, right? And so when I start feeling like I'm at that point where I need a little me time, I do. I'll sit with my eyes closed for like 5 minutes and take that quality time and meditate. Or I do Reiki. I'll go
Oh,
outside, go for a walk, exercise. I have a red light that I love, a red light therapy thing that I will lay under for like 5 or 10 minutes. And I feel like that just kind of centers me and charges me. So it's anything that I feel like when I'm starting to feel like a little drained and I talk to people all day long. So sometimes I'm like, okay, I'm done talking. Like I just need to like not talk to anybody. And I'll take like 5 or 10 minutes to myself and just not talk to anyone and just kind of go inward and reflect and meditate on whatever I'm going through.
got it. And you spoke about exercise. So what kind of exercise do you like to do?
Weight lift, run, any swimming, biking, pretty much anything outdoors or, sneak away to the gym for 15 or 20 minutes and or an hour and get a workout in.
Really? It's also a big part of my life, and whenever someone says that exercise, it always makes me happy because I'm a yoga trainer and I also do a lot of exercise. So it's
Okay.
yeah, it's a big part of my life.
Oh,
And
that's so good.
do you think that the role of exercise in when it comes to mental health, do you think it helps in improving mental?
Absolutely. Yes. And I think, it comes twofold. Like one, yes, you're releasing endorphins and you're meditating while you're exercising sometimes and just kind of focusing on yourself. So I think that is one part. And the other part I feel like is goal setting. And so when you exercise and you set a goal for yourself through that exercise and then you achieve that goal, that also releases chemicals in your body like dopamine that makes you feel good. And so you want to do it more. And so I definitely think it's a good thing. It's not always easy to keep up. Like I'll admit there's 1,000 things I'd rather do than go to the gym sometimes, but once you do it and probably like yourself, you feel good. So you keep coming back.
Okay. Yeah, nice, great. And do you think that technology does it help us to connect more, or is it isolating us more?
Um, I think it depends how you use it, right? Like anything. Um, I feel like for a lot of people, maybe even connecting with you, I'm a huge proponent of my main source of social media and technology. And I feel like in my experience, it's enabled us to connect with other people around the world that we wouldn't normally connect with. And I've met some really amazing people, yourself included, on other parts of the globe that I wouldn't know existed. So I think that is definitely an advantage that can go a long way. And just the global stuff too. I mean, there's a lot of stuff, myself included, and like what people are trying to do globally to help people and help the economy and in different aspects. And otherwise, I don't think it could be as easily done or more efficient or as efficient if we didn't have the connectedness like we do.
And on that note, Chandra, I guess I won't hold you any longer. Thank you for your sagacious advice. It really means a lot to me and for my viewers as well. The things that you shared was like really educational, informative, and profound. So thank you for being here. And we're gonna catch up soon again in the future with
Yeah.
podcast part 2.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for reaching out to me and connecting. And I love what you're doing on just connecting with people and talking about all this stuff that helps, right? I've watched a couple of your YouTubes in the past and they're good.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. Take care, Chandra, and we're gonna catch up soon. Bye.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye. Talk soon.